call to order the special work session of the meeting of the Mayor and Council, Monday, June 25th, 2018. The time is now 7 o'clock. Start by reading the sunshine law. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, by email to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled the same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. I'd like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits in our council chambers, 1 on each side of the dais and 1 in the rear. In addition, we are being recorded by both audio and video for purposes of creating a record during the public portion of the meeting. If any member of the public wishes to be recorded or be heard, they need only identify themselves by stating their full name and address for the record, and they may make a statement or ask any question they would like. Just a point of information, I'm Council President Ellen Busky, sitting in for Mayor Mignon, who is out of town tonight, and we have a guest attorney sitting in for Mr. Sorlow.
Michael Rosenberg.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilwoman Stewart?
Here.
Councilman Canigo?
Here.
Councilwoman Davis is out with prior notice. Councilman Gautier is also out with prior notice. Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mignon is out with prior notice.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is Borough Administrator topics. Alan?
Thank you. I'd like to report back on our discussions with New Milford with regard to having a joint bid for solid waste collection. We met with New Milford representatives after our last meeting and indicated that the borough would like to have a bid which reflected twice a week collection all year long. After much discussion, we reached a compromise where we indicated we would each bring this concept back to our councils, and that is to have a joint bid with no changes, but alert the bidders that there is the possibility that each town or both towns might reject that joint bid at their discretion. In addition, both New Milford and River Edge would go out at the same time with their own bid and their own conditions. So, and that would be the scenario, to have a joint bid together, leaving the situation the way it is currently, and then have our own bid. New Milford would have their own bid, and then once everything came in, you could make a choice as to whether you wanted to go with the joint bid or your own bid as well. I would be looking for a motion tonight on that, if we have consensus, so that we could start to put together the specifications for those 2 packages.
Mayor Pro Tem, Alan, could I ask a question? Did the compromise to go out with a joint bid that would then could devolve to a separate bid, was it based solely on our desire to have it twice a week, or was there something else that New Milford was looking for that we weren't?
No, New Milford was satisfied with the joint bid that we had done in the past. So they had felt that the competition was sufficient, that we received a very good 5-year bid, so they had no desire until we basically came to the table and said we would like to have our own bid. So in order to, I guess, ensure that they would have a collection system in place, they wanted to put their own bid together as well.
Any other discussion?
Is there any additional cost to us in terms of prepping the 2 bids, or is it just you doing it?
No, we'll do our bid in-house. The only word changes that really will be required for the joint bid will be to alert the bidders as to this possibility that we may each go individually instead of awarding on the joint basis.
Okay.
And you also have to say in the solo bid that we may reject the solo bid and go with the joint bid.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We need a roll call.
We're all ayes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, thank you.
We have nothing on for discussion. We have a work session consent agenda. Clerk has to read that.
No, we just have a vote on that to amend the contract for matching pro-rata labor attorney not to exceed $5,000.
Need a motion?
I'll make the
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
For your information, tonight we have Borough Engineer Robert Costa here to discuss the community center. Would you like to?
No, thank you, Council President. I guess the reason we're here tonight, we met with the architect, I guess it was 3 weeks ago, give or take. This is the latest plan of GMR.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Bob, you said we met with the architect. Who was the we?
It was myself, the mayor. It was at his offices maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, but don't hold me to the, if you need the exact date, I'll...
No, just curious.
Okay. Kurt from DMR sent us the drawing that's, I guess, in front of you and up on the screen to come up with a proposed parking layout. And I think this is the latest plan that we were given. I'm not sure if there's any changes to that between that meeting and tonight. This one was dated February 26th in 2018.
No, this is I checked with Kurt today, this is the
This is
last
the
one.
latest, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, the scheme is, I think there might have been some discussion about changing possibly some of the square footage in the building to make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah, we've had, you want me to jump
I
in?
guess you could jive it, again.
Yeah, there was some discussion in terms of the overall size of the building as we've gone through the project. The size of the building has grown a little bit as we've discussed and met with some of the constituent groups, adding additional spaces and things like that. It went from an original plan of around 6,000 square feet up to almost 6,900. So there's some discussions to scale it back by about 300 square feet because of cost.
Based on that layout and that parking area, what we did a takeoff to come with an estimate of cost, which is on the second page that I handed out, with the items that again, it's just a concept, so we put in some numbers obviously for earth moving, drainage. It's going to become a major project under the DEP rules, so you'd have to clean the water, store the water before you outlet it. And again, based on the square footage of the pavement, the curbs, some numbers in there to re-landscape, because obviously this doesn't show any re-landscaping. Basically, the cost of construction. Then the discussion was at that point to hire a GC. Does it make sense to bid this separately and get a site contractor to build the site improvements and then ultimately set up the pad site, similar to what would happen in, say, a major strip mall, where you see the mall is up, the majority of the mall is up, and part of the parking lot is open, that it could be a pad site in the future, and you would make this as a pad site and then give it over to another bid to a general contractor to build the building. So you would bring whatever utilities you need, say within 5 feet of the outside of the new proposed structure, but everything else would be built. And maybe you don't do final pavement because obviously it's going to get damaged possibly during construction, but you could at least create the parking before the building goes up. And this way, again, you have to keep the library in operation, so you would try to minimize the impact of the library, get the site basically done, and then come in some future point and build your building. The pros would be, like I said, you would then have just site contractors bidding on the site work, which could be a cost savings. You create the parking areas, so whatever's needed for the library to continue their operation with the least amount of impact to them. You could basically keep their parking lot almost in play until the other parts are built, where then you can exchange the spaces they lose. So that was sort of the idea. And again, just bring it to a pad site where once the architecturals are complete, the construction drawings are complete and ready for permitting, you could then send that out for bid and a contract. think that's pretty much it. I know there was, I had a conversation with Liz from the Shade Tree Commission. Obviously, there's a concern with the trees. Looking at this concept, and again, not that I want to take down every tree in the borough, but I think if you build this particular concept to leave 2 or 3 or 4 major trees and try to build around them and try to work with the grades, I think that you're going to have an issue there. And ultimately, I know trees are very, obviously very important, but I don't think you want to create a liability either. So I think there's got to be some discussion on how the council wants to proceed with the ultimate parking arrangement. I know, again, I wasn't part of parcel of any of the other negotiations with the cultural center, but from my understanding, based on the conversation I had with Kurt from DMR, possibly the council had conversations with the cultural center, that building is going to remain. So I think that's off the table at this point. I think there's a lease involving that parcel. So basically, they would remain. They would have access to the new parking area. There would be drop-off areas in the front. Possibly you could tweak this plan a little bit to get a little more efficiency as far as double aisles. But you're obviously kind of stuck with the geometry that exists. So there's really not a lot of leeway what you can do out here.
Are there any questions for Mr. Costa from the council?
Mr. Costa, this estimate of essentially $700,000,
Right.
That's for everything but the building, correct?
Correct. The only thing is the pavement thickness that we put in here. Again, we don't have any soil information. I don't know how good the soils are. So we made it a very heavy pavement. Possibly you don't have to make it that heavy once we get some soil samples in there. So that would be somewhat of a cost savings. We put in just some numbers for some retaining walls. There is a great difference between the property. So again, you're trying to get a concept and then try to get back to a budget. So I think we're giving you the worst case scenario. It's probably going to come in a little bit cheaper. The only thing I can say based on some bids we received recently, it seems like everybody is so busy that the pricing has actually gone up dramatically. We saved a lot of money on the resurfacing this year, which is a good thing. But again, with the sewer project that we just sent out, River Edge Road, you saw those numbers come in very high. Some other stuff that I sent out recently has come in much higher than we anticipated. And a lot of the bidders, there's less bidders, which tells me a lot of people are extremely busy at this point. Whether or not that's going to last in the near future, that I don't know.
My second question is, because I'm not familiar with the way we do the trees that I see on the projected design, are those our current trees that are, or are they the trees that would
Those are the
remain?
trees that are going to remain. I've shown there. Some of the bigger trees are maybe 36-inch diameter trees, so they're substantial trees in the center. Again, I wish I had my laser pointer. This? No.
Swatch. I'll open up.
Yeah. Just if you see the two major trees in the center,
Yes.
again, to try to keep them, and basically you're not putting parking in that area, and you're trying to maintain that with the parking lot around it. I don't know how realistic that is. If you compromise the root system, basically the roots go to the drip line of the tree. So if the tree extends 40 foot, 50 foot in diameter, I mean, literally that's where the roots are going. So if you damage the roots, could you compromise the tree? And again, you're going to get into a safety issue.
Okay.
Years ago, Howland, don't cut the trees. So we left the trees. But to do the curbs and the sidewalks, you have to cut the roots. During a storm, the trees come down. So, if you want to be caution, and you would take the trees down and then replant trees. But again, I understand the Shade Trees Commission's feeling on that, on what's there. But again, if you want to build a community center, if you need the amount of parking that's shown, my personal opinion is, I hate to say it, but I think these trees are going to be compromised. Whether you take them down now, or whether they ultimately run into trouble in the future. think they need to go at this point. If the council wants to build this parking lot, my personal opinion is build a parking lot and then revegetate it, is put money in a landscaping budget and landscape the perimeters and the interiors if you want to do it that way. That would be my recommendation.
How many parking spaces is this ballpark?
This one, I think, is 80.
Yeah, it's in the low 80s, I
Low
believe,
80s. I
something
think
like
it's
that.
84, if I'm not mistaken.
In total?
Total.
Yeah, in total.
How many are at the library now?
I believe it's 33, let me say.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It maintains the library parking plus an additional 50 spaces or thereabout.
And this actually shows some parking on the street itself on Continental. That would be striped spaces there.
So instead of, I always thought when we were thinking about doing this as a single phase, you're suggesting or recommending to the council that we do a two-phase, build the parking lot and do all the gradients, put in all the plumbing, sewage, and everything. And then when all that's done, we start working on the building.
Correct. Two separate contracts. And the only reason I'm saying that.
We went with that, how long would it be until it would actually be open?
From my understanding, the construction drawings are not,
Haven't been
started yet.
No.
So you're months away from construction drawings to pulling a permit. So you'd have to finish the construction drawings, bid the project out, award the project, permit the project, and then ultimately start construction. Then if you do it that way, you'd have a general contractor which would then sub out to a site contractor.
Uh-huh.
This will actually help us expedite
I think
the
this
process.
would probably speed things up. If we could get this job, again, if the council says, let's go to design this plan, get it on the street, let's say we can get this out there within a month.
Yes.
Just the parking lot.
Okay.
I have a question. What about the American Legion?
Back
Demos.
So is that part of this?
Yeah.
here. Let me, no, just coming back.
So my question, and this might not be a question that you can answer as our borough engineer, but the design of the building, and maybe Alan has to answer this, will that go before the land use board? And will the public have an opportunity to review, weigh in, and share concerns or recommendations? And how does that fit into this whole process?
Actually, it has to go before the land use board. The land use board wouldn't have jurisdiction.
They would or they wouldn't?
Would not. When I say they don't have jurisdiction, basically, under a capital improvement, your requirement is to go before the planning board. In this case, it's a combined board. And you have to present the case, and then ultimately, they could make recommendations if they wanted to.
The land use board?
Yes.
But they're not binding on
But it's not binding.
What I'm trying to get at is I want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to, just like any other project that comes before the land use board, whether they're residents in close proximity or members of the public, have an opportunity to share concerns, whether they're pleased, not pleased.
Any capital project, again, in this magnitude, has to, under the statute. Again, I don't want to play attorney tonight, but that's what has to be done. If you don't do that, you run the risk that if there is a third party that feels they have standing, they could file an action to stop that. Many years ago, I was involved in a case like that at Fort Lake, and there is no question. You have to, as the municipality, go before the land use board. Strictly for a recommendation, you don't have to take their recommendations, but you do have to go through that step.
And just to answer your question, if you look up sort of towards the top on the right-hand side, you'll see a dotted line.
Right.
That's the existing American Legion building, just showing where it currently is.
Where?
Top right-hand side. Looks like there's a tree there, and the arrow's
like a
going in
circle?
either direction.
It's this right
It's
there.
it's a
5 feet now, thank you.
It's a square, basically. That's where the existing American Legion is right now.
that large parking lot, what I'm going to call the top right-hand corner, the access is from Continental, not from Elm, correct?
Correct. Well, no,
No.
current, under this proposal, it is not.
No, it is not.
The
So-
access is through the, Casey, do you mind if I'm sorry. That'd just be a little easier. I apologize. No, I'm not unplugging. Oh, no, you're good. You're good. All right, so right here is where the existing garage is right now. The proposed entrance and exit, this would be the proposed entranceway here coming in, and the existing driveway for the library would be the exit.
How do you get to the other parking lot, the top one?
Here, to here, and around. You can see the arrows if you come.
Well, I see the arrows, it looks like there's spaces that are, or no?
No, no, that's the way you can get in.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
There's no exit onto Continental from either parking, any of the parking.
No,
It's all in and out on Elm.
it's in and out on Elm, and that was done specifically to try and discourage pedestrians from crossing from Memorial Park across Continental mid-block. The hope is to direct them to the corner where it's much safer, especially if you're having a building like this, which may, and we hope, attracts teenagers and children to want to come, to force them to use the crosswalk as opposed to mid-block. So that was done intentionally with the hope later on that there would be some type of plantings or things like that when we're done that'll further discourage people from crossing. So that was done intentionally.
Does the council have any other questions from?
And like I said, just the number of spaces was to, and why it's this big, was to try and get within the borough's own zoning regulations with respect to the amount of parking versus the square footage of the building. So that's why you have that amount of parking space.
This new plan doesn't have the amphitheater in the back that we had initially discussed, right?
No, the amphitheater, which was designed or talked about here, unfortunately, this tree you see here, this was a tree that was dedicated to the people who died in 9/11, and none of those of us at the time on the committee didn't feel comfortable with removing that specific tree. So we eliminated that from
So if we were to go forward, Bob, with your suggestion of splitting this, when do you think we would be at a point where they would be before the land use board?
First, you would get a contract and we'll work on it.
John, I'm just thinking,
You might be able to accomplish that in July.
I'm not sure if the concept would be sufficient. The concept is sufficient to go before the board, open up a discussion with the public. That I don't know. I don't know how far the plans would have to be. Obviously, you wouldn't need construction drawings. You wouldn't have to know the size of the beams and what windows and, all of that call. So you probably need the floor plan, which I believe DMR has. I don't know if they have the revised one. Again, we could find out tomorrow whether or not that's... As of today, because I did speak with her today, this is the latest drawing. They did not update, just shrink the square footage. Okay, so this is it. This is what exists as of right now.
Maybe, I'm sorry, maybe Al, you know this
Yes.
question. Did the architect who did these renderings or these drawings
Yeah.
take into consideration the exits and entrance and the impact on the residents on Elm and Tenney? And, I mean, I don't want to get into the details, but headlights and all that type of stuff, because it is changing what is there today.
Yeah, I mean, this exit is the existing library driveway.
I'm more concerned.
So it doesn't take into, it has no, I mean, it's not changing anything.
Where the garage
This
was.
is, the garage is facing inward, so I wouldn't, there shouldn't be any
So that's
headlights
an
pointing to the
entrance
res-
and the
That's
other
an
is an
entrance,
exit.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not dual like it is currently. And I wouldn't anticipate that any headlights from here would be able to reach any of the homes that are
No, so they're on a hill.
significantly far away.
So they're on a hill.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate
Oh,
that
start
would be
going
an
up
issue.
and stuff.
Still have, bushes and shrubs and everything, and it's quite a distance away. Yeah,
Al, even though I was placed on the community center committee, there's been no meetings.
Yeah, this was
That
done-
I've been invited to, but,
this
and
was
so,
done before you were put on,
okay,
back in February.
okay, so there's,
You know-
but did this ever go before traffic and safety, or ask the police department to weigh in on the new traffic pattern?
I have discussed it with the Traffic and Safety Committee. I believe I showed them the plan at one of those meetings that I had with all constituent groups, and did discuss it with them as to where the entrance and exit was going to be. At that time, one of their main concerns was parking for the ambulance corps. But I did discuss it with them, and I showed it to them.
And what about parking for the ambulance corps?
We have a sort of a phase two that we've discussed in the past, which would be on Continental, and perhaps either adding some additional parking for them there, or along the side there where adjoining the park. So that would be consideration. Again, generally on average, they only have about 4 people. You know, you may see 4 to 5 cars. Their driveway holds 2. And there is parking on Continental that could accommodate them, so, it's not, you know, we did think about that, right? Where they would be able to park. We're pretty sure it won't have any impact. In fact, it'll be closer to the building than they are right now.
So this would be in this budget year, and the building, I'm assuming now, would be in the next budget year.
Well, it depends. I don't know how Alan would interpret it, but to go forward, we have to have all the monies available, and as of right now, based on the cost projections that we've gotten, we are within the monies that we currently have available. Which is why I had Alan gave everybody what monies are available at this point.
Alan, do you
I did have
concur
some
with that?
discussions with Kurt today. He was concerned that because of the possibility of steel tariffs being put in place, that the cost of the building could go up. Originally, he was thinking that this would be steel frame, and I suggested to him, well, why don't we just go with wood then? If steel is going up, we could go with wood, and it's absolutely within our code. There's a sprinkler system that's going to be in there, and there's no reason why it couldn't. Wood building, it's 1 story. It's not an issue, so kind of work around the steel tariffs, I think, come into place.
Alan, do you concur that this is my original question to Councilman Bartoloni, that this isn't, even though we're doing it in 2 phases, we have enough funding to proceed?
Mr. President, if I may, I provided the available funds. I haven't been privy to any of the estimates, so I'll leave it to others to decide whether the available funds that I've indicated are sufficient to meet their estimates.
Right now, the projections that we've received with how it was spec'd out, the site work, and from the architect was around 2.6 million, and we do have that existing funds at this time. So, you won't know until you go out to bid, though. That is the, you know, there is a caveat, but we do have the existing funds based upon this projection, which, like I said, we're looking to shrink it down by about 300 square feet. 300 square feet at about $250 to $300 a square foot build. You do the math, the price for the building will come down a little bit.
Would the patio remain?
Yes, the patio remains. What we'd be looking to do primarily, I think, would be in shrinking the lobby space, which is quite extensive. And this room might come down a little bit, again, just to keep the seating in line with the available parking to meet our zoning ordinance. But no, the patio area is still there.
It just seems counterintuitive that we're going to put in all this parking lot and then move construction equipment over it. I don't see how that's.
Well, like Rob said, we wouldn't put the final base coat over it.
the actual asphalt top that you'll.
Honestly, it really is the best way to do it. If you look at the project going on Kinderkamak right now,
Yeah,
mud, dirt, all over the place. Once the building starts construction, that mud and dirt is inside the building. It just becomes a nightmare. Leonia recently, 37 units. They did the site work first. They put the stabilized base down, and it's a much cleaner job. It's easier, faster, deliveries, everything else. And then at the end of the project, you come in and you put your base, your final, your surface course, your 2-inch top, and then put your line, your striping.
actually, I was thinking about the concrete curbs, the concrete sidewalks, how they
You
could all
could
get.
lose a little bit of that,
Yeah.
but not everything. And again, it would be, you would basically, you would have the new lot, so the library could, I mean, this is what I envision. The lot towards Continental would be available, so you'd have the driveway coming off of Elm, or whether you change the driveway locations, whatever. So that would be your in and out, and then you would basically take the other part of the parking lot and just fence it out. So you put temporary fencing up, and that would be the construction area.
You could finish this off, right, put down a top coat,
Finish that off.
finish that off so that the library has available parking.
Right.
While this aspect of it's going.
And then you would fence that area, and that's where you would have the rest of the construction to let them in there. What do you need?
That's all, sorry.
You unhooked this.
No, the wire should reach. Now, I'll come over.
I mean, that's
During
the,
the interim, something we were cognizant of with the placement of with the entranceway, and I'll show it to you here. And it's not gonna make much sense, but this area here is directly across from the proposed driveway. So you can see any headlights would actually miss both houses that are there on Elm. It would actually hit the garage or go right in between the two buildings. So even during that proposed construction period, if there was one way in and out on the new driveway, it still wouldn't bother the residents with it. So we did kind of try and match that up. And you can see from here where the garage is, again, this is the back view, minimizing any impact on those residences. We did think about that.
I'm sure you thought about it, but I want to ask anyway, so it's on the record. The either one of you, the current Veterans Building,
Yeah.
VFW, has been there a very long time. What happens, has funding been put aside in this estimate if we, this is all very new for me, so I'm not phrasing this correctly. Are we going to be filling in the basement after we demolish the top of the building?
Absolutely.
Or removing the foundation?
take it out.
So if there is any site pollution or something like that, is that currently in our budget?
If there's any asbestos, or obviously to do any demo, whether it's a house in town or anything, you have to do, obviously shut the utilities, which in there, I believe that's all done. Any of the sanitary sewer, you'd have to cap it properly. That's it. Take it out. If there's any asbestos, you'd have to do abatement for that, and that's it.
But that's not currently in the budget you're doing. That is in the current budget.
Not in his,
Not in
but
mine.
it's in
It's
the
the
architectural.
architecturals.
It's in the architectural that has been accounted.
Right.
Demolition of that.
Then once that's out, you'd come back in with either recycled concrete or DGA, fill it in, compact it, bring it to grade, and that's it, and build your parking lot on top of it.
We originally had in our budget the cost for demolition of the cultural center, but that is, I had explained to the council, and I don't know if anybody wants to hear what happened with that, but why that's like, we've elected to leave that in place at this point. The garage, though, is not actually part of their lease, if anybody's wondering. It's mentioned in the lease, but it's at the discretion of the council. So that's not an issue going forward. They're not actually permanently entitled to it.
But just to reiterate, where that garage is going to be the new driveway entrance. And the existing library parking lot will be the exit.
Yes, correct. We're currently, yeah.
And then there's a drop-off in front of the new building, there's a proposed drop-off.
And you can see, this gives a view in terms of, as you're coming up Tenny, where faces the existing library right now, where the driveway apron comes out onto Elm. So you can just kind of get a sense. And some people have questions in terms of where the building is on relation to the property. That door is actually kind of where the buildings will connect. And to give a bigger sense, you kind of get a sense here exactly how far set back it actually is from the street. So the front of that, the middle of the building is kind of right around that, that area. That's where we'll connect. So it is set back, but
Council, have any other questions on the community center for Mr. Council? I know we do have some residents here, but we will open to the public shortly.
And I can just explain this real quick, so I don't want to open to the public, because we're talking about it.
I have no objection.
If there's no objection, may we open to the public on this issue?
I move to open to the public at this time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If any member of the public wishes to ask a question or make a comment, if you just come forward, state your name and address, and we'll hear you.
I'm Kenny Lehman. I live at 190 Kenny, which is the house that is directly on the corner of Kenny Avenue and Elm Avenue. So I have to correct you. The exit of the current parking lot is right into you.
Can you sit and speak into the microphone, please?
Do I have to repeat my name?
Yes, please.
My name is Kenny Lehman. I live at 190 Tenny Avenue. It's the corner of Elm Street and Tenny. Elm Avenue and Tenny Avenue. So I am directly across the street from the library and directly across the street where this proposal is planned to occur. First, I want to correct you in that the exit of the parking lot goes directly onto my property, not the garage of the house that you took the picture of.
No, what I was referencing is that I wasn't referencing your
No, but
your house.
that was the discussion about headlights. So
Well,
I just want to state,
Yeah.
that the 84 parking spaces that are in this lot, right, has now increased not just 33 cars leaving that parking lot and shining lights onto my property, but now it's 84 cars coming out of the lot, shining onto my property, of which my backyard is right there, and I have 5 children, small children, that play in that backyard. So I have concerns. One, why has there been very little communication to the public with regards to these plans? All right? I know that you had mentioned that it's been talked about over the last 10 years, but when I discussed this with other residents, including my neighbors who are here today, there's very little knowledge about this. Nobody knew that that was going to be the building. Everybody kind of thought maybe the possibility of VFW being taken down and rebuilt. Nobody had an idea of the size of the parking lot that was going to be constructed. I've gone through every agenda and minutes, okay, going back to November, and not once is it mentioned, okay, that there has been a public notification about this that's been put out other than what's been discussed here and put into the minutes. And in fact, in the February minutes, I believe it was February 12th, okay, when Councilwoman Bastide actually brought up the fact that there is a resident within 200 feet of the proposal, okay, and when will these residents be made aware of what is going on? I believe, and I'm just reading this strictly from the minutes, okay, that the mayor said he thinks Councilwoman Bastide asked when the residents within 200 feet would be noticed of by land use. Mayor Mignone replied, they wouldn't be noticed because it is not meant as a public hearing. We will call it a capital review. So I want to know, what is a capital review? And how does quoting it as that, okay, backhandedly not allow us to know what's going on? So now, I don't want to take up everyone's time. I don't know how much time I have. I have a lot of questions. Safety concerns, tenure of construction concerns, was there any green acre funding used on that little park that's across the street that unfortunately Mr. Costa had us informed would probably have to completely come down, okay? When they redid the roof on the library, okay, the smell was horrific. The debris that flew off the roof and onto my property was terrible. And every truck that had a trailer, every 18-wheeler that had to get in there, had to go up onto my property to cut into that driveway, all right? Cracked sprinkler systems. I got those massive trucks coming right by the backyard that my kids are playing in. So I think there's a lot of concerns here, especially how does something like this get to this point, of which I think it's been almost $300,000 has been paid towards this, if I read the minutes correctly, $20,000 and then I think another $270,000 or $280,000. How does this get paid for to this point and developed to this kind of scale of plans without even me knowing? I live right across the street. So you know, I have to be honest, I'm upset about this. And I don't know if it's at a point where there's no return, because it seems like this is happening, okay? And if I understood the land use notification, that they can make recommendations, if I understood what Mr. Costa was saying, but they don't necessarily have to be adhered to. So does that mean that I could sit here and ramble on and say how I think that this is going to be terrible for my property value, whatever it's going to be, the safety of my kids, but that nothing is going to change? This is going up regardless, so you're just going to pay, you know, knock down Paradise and put up a parking lot? And that is a giant parking lot. And I understand, reading through the minutes too, that at some point, because the cultural center will go on a year-to-year lease, okay, if the 15-year lease hasn't been up already, the mayor is quoted in here as also saying that that'll eventually come down and just become more parking spaces. So, I don't know, is this the forum for me to just start asking questions, or do I send them in a way of an email? Because
Try and answer as many questions as
Well,
I humanly can.
Yeah, I would say, however, I think the land use, when it comes before the land use board, is the public hearing on the project, if I'm correct. But having said that, if you have a series of questions that you'd like to have answered, there is a subcommittee who should be able to answer those questions for you, and if not, get the answers. Frankly, I'm just looking at the clock, and we have a couple other things on our work session agenda, and then we have to go into public at 8 o'clock.
I can answer them as quickly as I can.
But just to answer another question, and we have been discussing the community center as part of our budgeting process for several years. So this is not something that's been done outside of a public conversation. It's been part of our budget process for at least 3 years. I mean, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong. Since 2013. The council has given the subcommittee the direction to go forward with working with DMR, the architect, and with the borough engineer to come to this point. Do I disagree with you that perhaps the residents in close proximity have not been as informed as they could have been? I don't disagree with you. But if you'd like to ask a few questions now, and a member of the subcommittee could try to answer them, and then if you're not fully satisfied or we don't have time, we can you can submit them via email. And
I guess my first question is this a done deal?
In terms of the placement of it, or
In terms of
or the
placement
idea of
and
actually
size?
building a community center?
Well, is the placement of the community center in that exact location a done deal?
I would think so, but I can't speak on behalf of the council. We've gone over this for a very long time. I mean, the original building, the American Legion building, was bought with the idea that there would be a community center there. And that building was bought 2009 or thereabouts. So it's been quite a long time with the thought that there would be a community center there. Now, in terms of the size of the building, well, there's a reason for the size of it. Pardon me. One of the main uses of the building is to have our SCORE senior citizens come in. And we've gone over that for quite a long time. And if you've ever gone to the temple where SCORE is currently at, they have quite a significant space. And they wanted a similar size space, which is that large meeting room, because currently they do ballroom dancing, they do Tai Chi, they do a lot of different things and activities there. So we wanted to provide them with a similar size space.
Are you saying though that they already have adequate space for that?
They have space, yes, they have adequate space there, but if you understand, I don't know if you know what the program is that SCORE has.
I don't know.
Okay. They meet approximately a day and a half, Mondays and Tuesdays, from generally September to June. They don't
Councilman,
meet
you
over
might want to
summer.
explain the acronym SCORE.
I'm sorry, the Senior Citizens of River Edge. It's a program for senior citizens in this town. It's been in existence for, I don't know, a very long time. The borough currently pays $18,000 a year for them to use the building approximately 10 months out of the year. Sometimes it's 9 months out of the year, depending on the temple schedule, for a day and a half a week. We want to provide them with an opportunity to meet more regularly than that and have additional space than they currently have. So that was one of the goals of this. The other goal, obviously, is the office space. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but our rec director has been in the basement of this building for a very long time. If you've ever worked in a basement, it's not the best place to work. So the idea would be also to have office space there as well. Originally, the idea was to have 2 offices, one for the cultural center, but that didn't quite pan out. They rejected coming to this building unless we provided them with 2,000 square feet just for them. Then, obviously, you need bathrooms, various storage, a prep kitchen, because SCORE has access to a kitchen right now, and that was very important for them, that they be able to continue to have a kitchen at their needs. And then if you just met with any of the other groups in town, there is a dire need for meeting space in this town, which is one of the secondary goals of this, or primary goals, actually. One of the secondary goals is, if you'll look, there's a teen room right there. And that's to try and encourage teenagers and people to come in and have a place where they can study and meet and hang out. Because if you've ever looked at our recreation programming currently, it's great when you're from K to 6, and then we kind of lose people after that middle school age. So we want to try and target that audience as well. And so when you add all this space together, or the needs together, it really did come out to a building this size. We looked at a building of about 5,000 square feet, and it just wouldn't have met the needs of the constituent groups that we met with. So whether it's precisely at that location or it's slightly over where the existing footprint is, one way or the other, to have that many people be able to access that building, you need the same amount of parking regardless. The library has 33 spots right now. We are committed to maintaining those 33 spots. So you needed the additional parking. So regardless, and I know you said it's a large parking area, but if you look actually at what's existing right now, it's a large parking area. We're not adding that much more, covered space, as it were.
Well, we're technically knocking down that entire walkway part. The Streets Commission, Arboretum, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, it would have to.
That you walk through.
Yes, it would have to be.
So for me, a property owner, on that corner, do you think that's going to be aesthetically pleasing to me?
Well, I think when it goes back in, you're going to see various bushes, shrubs,
75,
flowers.
100-year-old trees.
I understand.
I'm not going to be around by the time.
Well, some of those trees are actually quite new, and they're not that big. But it's our intention to make it as pretty as it possibly can.
Who owns the land where the shade tree commission?
Town.
It's strictly town?
Yes, town
Not
property.
open space?
No, it's town property. It's town property. And if you're referring to, yeah, and I can show you, I don't have it here, we did our due diligence on that plan. When the town bought Cherry Blossom Park, they accepted Green Acre money, and they had to submit to the state what's called a ROS. It's an inventory of open space, all right? And various properties were designated as open space, and we couldn't touch those. We went through that, what was designated open space, and made sure that none of that was on that registry.
So I don't know that, that your assessment of preventing kids from crossing Continental by having in and outs on Elm Street is really going to stop anybody from crossing Continental. It doesn't stop them today. Why not have the exit and entrance on Continental, where it is across from a park, where it's on a main drive, rather than on a residential street, where you have, on Tenney Avenue, there's at least 30-plus kids between Elm and Boca.
I understand what you're saying. Listen, I can't tell you specifically. I don't think there's going to be an influx of traffic on Tenney trying to get there. I really don't.
But if you're saying that there's going to be, you have to add additional spaces, because to maintain,
I mean, I think most
if you're saying you have to add the additional spaces to maintain the volume of people that you'd expect in the center, that means you're expecting additional volume of cars.
we also have to add the space to meet our existing zoning laws.
So
that's one of the goals, is to meet our zoning laws.
To meet the volume.
It's
It's excess
It's large, it's two, yes. Do we anticipate there will be times where there'll be that volume of parking? Yeah, there will be times if there's an event going on. But during the day, for the most part, what I think you're going to see is our seniors largely take a bus to get to the temple. They carpool. So I don't think you're going to see that type of parking during the day. But we do have to meet the zoning laws, and that's the requirement, that number of spaces. So that's what we're trying to meet.
You're worried specifically about the lights bothering you at night and
No,
these
I don't like the idea of a giant parking lot across the street from my house.
I mean, there's already a big parking lot there. It's going to be bigger. I understand, but we're splitting hairs now. I
Would you
understand
like
that
the
it's going to be
parking lot
bigger.
next to your house?
What's that?
Would you like the parking lot next to your house?
Well, I don't have one there already.
But would you like one there?
Well, no, but I don't have one there already. I mean, I don't want to get into a semantic
But,
argument.
and I don't want to,
Increased,
but for the most part, if you see, most of the parking is in the existing parking area already, by the, it's away from Penny, it's on the other side, so it's not, I mean, there's an area, of additional parking, but,
This whole area, right here.
yes, is new,
Yeah.
that's new, but everything else is pretty much
It is,
pre-existing.
right up to here. Okay.
What is new in there? What is there now?
This box right here is there.
That's new,
This,
everything else is
my
already
property
big.
line right here is where my property is. Where that picture of the exit, right here, this comes right into a window of my house. Every single time somebody goes out.
I understand, I mean, but again, it's already used for ingress and egress. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, I can't change that fact, it's already
So
existing.
perhaps we can look into moving into Continental. This way, maybe the exit doesn't shine into this gentleman's property, and I don't think there's anything.
We can
across the street.
certainly look into it, it's, again, we just didn't want to have that open area which invites children to cross the
But
line.
we also have talked about possibly putting a crosswalk there, because even if we did all this, it would be an attractive nuisance that probably would attract.
Well, the chief
more
is
children.
generally against mid-block crossings, so, because they aren't actually legal.
If I could just
Yeah.
suggest that if the council would entertain the idea of holding a public hearing in the very near future and invite DMR in, so there's an opportunity for our residents to have this exchange of questions rather than continue this now, because we do have to go into a regular meeting in 5 minutes, and I don't want to not hear from our residents.
The DMR will be.
I think
will
what we're
be
here,
to-
but what's very clear to me, and I think it's become clear to others, is that we should not wait much longer to do that. That we should have a public hearing with DMR here and invite the residents in the short term, especially if we're looking to give direction on whether or not we're going to split the contract out.
What is the expected tenure, length of time that this entire project is going to take?
Can you about?
Construction.
How many months?
From start to, from
To
construction?
construct the entire-
Is that
entire
both
building?
phases?
No, I would say to construct the parking lot, probably, let's say 3 months, or, the building could be 15 months, or 12 to 15 months.
And you said 50 months.
Based on what I'm hearing tonight, again, and I'm sure this is gonna resonate probably a little bit louder, I agree. I think the best thing to do is, at least the people in the affected area should be brought in immediately.
Emailing is a good idea,
Email
questions
some
in advance.
concerns, if I can make that suggestion, and I think maybe the best thing to do is actually go out to the property and take a close look. Again, these concepts were done by DMR.
Yeah.
Possibly, maybe you can lose a few spaces here, maybe keep a few trees, plant. And again, I don't think everybody's going to be happy with everything, but I think some of your concerns can probably be addressed in a lot of your neighbors.
So that's one of many questions, I'll just ask one more question. Somebody advised me that when this was brought up to, when these plans were presented to the Friends of the Library, I think that's your library, Friends of the thing.
There's a couple different,
Yeah, that the proposal was quoted at about, I think they said 1.8 million, of which 800,000 had already been allocated in funds, but there was $1 million shortfall. So when you had mentioned that this is now a $2.6 million project, okay, are you saying that River Edge has $2.6 million to allocate towards this, or do any of those funds still need to be raised?
no, the money's already been allocated, and, yeah, there was prior ordinances, capital ordinances, where there was monies appropriated for various projects, but either the project came in under projected costs, or the money wasn't used, and that money was reallocated towards this project. In this budget year, we did allocate additional monies in capital towards this project.
Are there any bonds that are going to be taken out to fund this project?
I imagine at some point, like most of our capital projects, there would be bonding done.
So that's not to say that there's $2.6 million readily available to pay for this project. They're going to have to raise these funds.
They get raised,
And again,
yeah.
I don't know the economics of
Yeah.
town finance, okay? I'm just asking.
yeah, no, I mean, we talked already.
Common sense, what
I
do
mean,
you have-
we've had a
what do you have
discussion
to
already.
pay for it, and what needs still needs to be raised?
The money is available, in order for us to go out to bid, the money has to be available to do the project at the time.
What the money is available.
We passed various capital ordinances over the last couple of years. The first one was back in 2013. So like I said, this is not a new concept. This has been going on for over 5 years now, where we've been slowly putting money aside for this to get to the point where we can actually fund this project. So the money is available to build the project.
Available, not in the spot where it still needs to be raised. Through taxes.
Well, I know taxes,
Councilor
no, hold on.
Bartolini, can I
Yeah,
ask
go ahead.
for Mr. Ransom?
That there are ordinances which provide the authorization to borrow funds for this project. Some of those ordinances have been fully funded, cash has been raised, others have not. So I would have to look myself, look at each ordinance and determine whether it's fully funded or not. And then I give you the breakdown of the $2.7 million, how much would have to be subject to future borrowing and debt payments, principal and interest, as opposed to those that we have funds in hand. But it's not all borrowing at this point. There are some fully funded or funds in hand in this project.
Can I get the name of the subcommittee after this meeting?
Well, I think it's Councilman Bartolini, Councilman Papaleo, and Mayor Mignon.
But as a caveat to that, I have been
Recently just joined.
and there's been no meeting that I've been invited to. There's been no meeting called. So,
Don't feel bad.
I'm just,
No meeting for us either.
I'm just saying, so, though I'd like to speak with some expertise or authority on this, at this point, I cannot.
All right.
Just-
You're welcome. I would like to thank Councilman Bartolini I think you've done a very good job explaining what's been in front of us today. If I would entertain a motion that we ask our borough administrator to prepare a public meeting with DMR and invite the residents, and whether it's on site with Mr. Costa as well, or if it's here in this room, or it's a combination of the two, and in short order. So I would entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's nothing like it.
Still open to the public.
Is any, okay.
Jen Dougherty, Shade Tree Commission. So I know you're now talking about 2 phases. So the first phase, doing the parking lot, is going to really affect the trees. So we met with just partial of the subcommittee back in October, and we gave our recommendations. When you currently look at this site plan here, it does not give you a full view of the 44 trees that are currently on the property. So what we did was we came with our updated plans and we tagged where all the local trees are. So when you talk about coming through the entryway, we discussed also about changing the entry over on Continental as well. Just because if you go back, there's probably about 8 trees right there now, and when you looked at the garage before, you could see there was scattered trees there. So,
It's not an as is. It
well,
was
okay.
an as-built.
So what we're asking, is we came with our recommendations. I found out last minute that this is being on the agenda this evening. What I'm asking is if we could meet to also understand, if you're going to start doing this in phases, what trees are going to be affected? What trees are being taken down? I know Bob talked to Liz briefly this evening. You talked about 2 trees that could be affected. Well, it could be, there could be more, there could be less, or things can be changed. So all I'm asking is that we meet again. I mean, we haven't received any updated plans. The last plans I have are dated September 8th of 2017, and there's new plans from February.
The site plan didn't very much change. It was the building itself that changed. That's really all. That's it.
Right, but if you're going ahead with the parking...
Well, and that's why we're having this meeting tonight.
Okay, but still, do you have a
Discuss
list
it.
of saying how many trees are going to be taken down? I mean, this is what
I think this was an idea to try and save as many trees as we possibly can. My understanding is that we may not be able to save those trees that we even wanted to. And my understanding is, in speaking with, Liz and whatnot, is that the Shade Tree Commission wanted $500,000 for trees.
No.
And we simply don't have that kind of money in our budget for this.
Okay, so I'll make that clear. What we stated was there's currently 44 trees on the property at a value of $420,000. We currently have memorial trees that are being given to us from residents, and if you go in the Arboretum and you look at the plaque, they're memorialized for loved ones. So that was one of our concerns. Yes, there's a 9/11 Liberty Elm, which we're happy that is going to stay. We were being, conscious of the donations that people have made.
Mm-hmm.
We also discussed there's 11 species trees, currently on the location. What else do I have down here? And we talked about the different donations. What we wanted to do is, if this is a project that's going through, we're not saying don't do the project. We're just saying please work with us. When I still look at this, I still don't understand what trees are staying and what trees we can survive and what's the current landscape going to look like then.
I mean, we don't.
I know you're saying you don't
Yeah,
know, but if you want to push ahead with a parking lot, that's going to affect
My
the
understanding,
trees.
those trees we may not be able to save any of the trees in that area. I mean,
I don't
that's-
understand that. We talked about
Yeah.
even relocating,
And
then
we simply-
replanting some of the trees. Then.
we don't have the money to do it. We just don't have the money to do it. I mean, it's a monetary issue.
So there's going to be no landscaping. It's just going to be a parking lot and a.
The landscaping will have to come back in after construction.
If I could just request that you make your statements, we cannot have this back and forth
Okay,
dialogue.
so what I'm asking is, can we please be given a site plan of what trees are going to be taken down, and what the landscape plan might possibly look at when we do get the funding.
Perhaps this is something that we should address at this next meeting that we're setting up, because it sounds like the ideal place. And I just want to say that this is really the first public forum that we've had this in. It's not that we've signed contracts and these things have gone out to bid. We want to hear from everybody, and we want everybody's ideas and opinions, and we want to be able to do what's best for the town, and obviously save anything we can. There may be some compromises we need to make, which Councilman Margolin has talked about, but that doesn't mean that we can't replant trees and you know, make up for what we've taken down. It may take a few years for these trees to grow back to their level, understandably, and that's unfortunate, but in order to get this, and I think this community needs this community center, there's a great need for it across many different levels, we need to make some of these sacrifices. I love trees like everybody else, and you know, I'm hurt anytime a tree is taken down. I honestly believe that, but I think there are circumstances that dictate certain actions, and this is one of them. So, as far as giving Shade Tree a voice, I think at the next meeting would be the appropriate time. And then if you can email us these questions before, all your concerns before, and then we can address them one by one, have the architects actually address all these questions rather than throwing them out at us now, because again, this is the first time that we've publicly shown everything, and the purpose of this meeting is to get some of these issues and concerns out there so that they can be addressed at a more formal time a little later.
So just so I'm clear, that when we did meet with the subcommittee, these questions and our recommendations were given.
That was part of that.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, so I appreciate your saying this, and I think having it in a public meeting is a great idea.
And
So,
just if I can, and because, you know, I met with a lot of various constituent groups as we went along this process. I met with Shade Tree, and then myself, Councilman Aquafreda, and the mayor also met with Shade Tree as well. We met with the Friends of the Library, we met with the Board of Trustees, we met with the Rec Commission, we met with the Cultural Center, any constituent group. I brought it to the Traffic and Safety Committee. As we went along with this, there were many, many groups and towns that compromised many different people to try and get their input. And this plan and these trees that are shown here was an attempt to try and reach a compromise. Now, we don't know, and I don't know, if it's actually feasible to keep those trees. We want to try and keep the trees. We want to try and have money available to replace or transplant the trees. But as we keep delaying the project, the cost of this project keeps going up. And it was something I mentioned earlier before when I was talking to the architect, where he's telling me because of now steel tariffs that the cost of steel is going up, and he's advocating that the cost of the project go up 15%, which is why I told him forget steel, build it out of wood. So we're trying to compromise and reach agreement with everyone that we can, and we're trying to do that. But we have varying obstacles in doing that. We have a certain amount of parking spaces we have to achieve. We don't have a choice in that. We have a certain size of building that we need to accommodate the needs of the public. And this is one of the only areas in town that we have where we can actually put something like this. And there is a need for this. There's been a need for a very long time. I don't know how many River Edge days I've gone to where the senior, you know, the residents and members of SCORE come up to me and go, "You getting a community center this year?" "Yes, we're working on it." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, forget it. It's not going to happen." And like, no, we're really doing this. And I went to SCORE too. I forgot to mention, I went to SCORE. I sat down with them for quite a while and went through this plan with them and adopted their recommendations. And their recommendation was, no, we don't want a prep kitchen, we want a full kitchen. So, you know, and that increased the space of the building as well. So we're trying very much to work with everyone that we possibly can. This hasn't been in secret, I promise you. Everyone. We're trying. It's been as public as it can be. It's been on our agenda as an unfinished item all year.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful explanation, and thank you for coming
no,
and speaking
thank
with
you, I
us.
appreciate it. I look
And-
forward to coming to a public
Absolutely.
meeting. Thank you.
If I could entertain a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We have to go into our regular meeting, Casey. Well, we're going to open to the public, and there'll be an opportunity shortly for you to ask your question. Okay, we're going to, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we are going to adjourn the special work session meeting. We're going to come back after the regular, because we have another item for Mr. Costa. Say it again? Yes. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Mayor and Council Monday, June 25th, 2018 to order. We'll stand and have a moment of silent prayer and reflection. Would Councilman Papaleo lead us with the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, by email to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to the same, as provided by law, of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. I'd like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits in our council chambers, 1 on each side of the dais and 1 in the rear. In addition, we are being recorded by both audio and video for purposes of creating a record during the public portion of the meeting. If any member of the public wishes to be recorded or be heard, they need only identify themselves by stating their full name and address for the record, and they may make a statement or ask any question they would like. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Barloni?
Here.
Councilwoman Bastigue?
Here.
Councilman Kenigo?
Here.
Councilwoman Davis is out with prior notice. Councilman Odier is also out with prior notice. Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mignon is also out with prior notice.
Thank you. And just for the record, Council President Ellen Bastigue sitting in for the mayor who is out of town. Approval of minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the mayor and council work session and regular meeting of June 11th, 2018, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Do you need a roll call, Stephanie? No. We have no proclamations or awards listed tonight. I would entertain a motion to open to the public on any item on this agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now open to the public on any item on the agenda. If anyone wants to be heard, they can just come forward and state their name.
I assume the senior citizen center is still on the
Casey.
agenda, correct?
Casey, you gotta say your name and your...
Casey Connors, 259 Adams Avenue.
The community center is actually not an item on this agenda. We will open up again to any items not on the agenda at the conclusion of the meeting.
Hopefully it's not too late.
We'll be quick.
Yeah.
Seeing no one else from the public to comment on items on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have an appointment, is Gary Wilhelm? Right, approve the appointment of Gary Wilhelm Jr. to the River Edge Volunteer Fire Department effective June 25th, 2018.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Stephanie will come and sign his oath another time, right? There's various correspondence available in the clerk's office for any member of the public who wishes to read it. We also have a monthly report from the Historic Commission from May 2018. We have no ordinances on for first reading. We do have ordinances on for second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read Ordinance 1813 by title?
Ordinance 1813, an ordinance of the Borough of Riveridge amending and supplementing Chapter 33, Fire Department of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Riveridge, establishing eligibility requirements for the members of the Junior Firefighters Auxiliary Program.
Thank you. This is an amendment to the eligibility requirements for Junior Firefighters Auxiliary. Motion to open public hearing on the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open to any members of the public who wish to speak on this ordinance. If you do, just approach the dais. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close to the public.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adoption of ordinance 1813. Roll call, please.
Councilman Barloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastigue?
Yes.
Councilman Kenigo?
Yes.
And Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody gonna move it though? Who moved it?
So moved.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Second.
Thank you.
Doing good.
Ordinance 1814, an ordinance of the Borough of River Edge adopting regulations restricting the planting, growing, or cultivating of bamboo. I'm going to take a motion to open this to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now open to the public on this ordinance. If anyone has anything they'd like to say, please come forward. Seeing none, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to adopt ordinance 1814.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Barloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastu?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
And Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 1815, ordinance rescinding ordinance 1577, adopting the Newbridge Landing Station redevelopment plan. May I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now open to the public on this ordinance. Seeing no one, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1815?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Barloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastu?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
And Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 1816, ordinance rescinding ordinance 1640, adopting the Johnson Avenue redevelopment plan. Motion to open to the public, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're open to the public on ordinance 1816. Seeing no one, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt ordinance 1816.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Barloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastu?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
And Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 1817, ordinance rescinding ordinance 1711, adopting the Borough of River Edge Kinderkamak redevelopment area plan. Motion to open to the public, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now open to the public on this ordinance. Seeing no one, motion to close, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to adopt ordinance 1817, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Barloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastu?
Yes.
Councilman Kamigo?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolutions by consent. Resolutions 18-230, 18-231.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need a roll call. If Finance Chair, Councilman Bartoloni, would read 18-232, the payment of the bills, please.
Thank you. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee, now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $214,596.04. Capital account, $21,102.87. Trust other account, $2,753.03. Open space account, $15,551.88. Trust other developers account, $8,170. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're now going to open the hearing to the public on any item they may wish to speak about. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Casey?
Speaking about the senior center.
Name and address.
Just state your name and your address.
Casey Connors, it hasn't changed from before.
I know. A matter of procedure.
Okay. With the way you're building it, want to build it here, instead of going that way, why not go parallel to Kinderkamak Road from from the west side of the cultural center towards Millbrook? And the way you do this, you have 2 options. You can add in a garage door for the ambulance cords across the street, sell that property, sell the firehouse down here on Kinderkamak Road. Those are 2 prime properties. You could get a lot of money that would pay for this thing, and some. My last question is,
the bonding ordinance that you had for the paving of Fifth Avenue, how did the sidewalks down there get paved and not the rest all the way up where they get paved?
Well, portions of Fifth Avenue were done through a Department of Transportation grant, where we had money for curbs, sidewalks, and driveway aprons. And then the other part of the resurfacing was just a strict resurfacing. Nothing else was touched.
It was paved, correct, Doug?
Paved, yes.
Curb to curb,
Curb to curb.
the full length of Fifth Avenue?
No, I'm not sure about that, because we may have had unfinished the section that runs from Midland to Riverdale.
Anybody else like to? Oh, I'm sorry, Casey, I thought you were finished.
The sidewalks were part of that bonding that we paid for in our taxes? Sidewalks?
Sidewalks were part of the Department of Transportation grant. So it was a grant from the state of New Jersey through the Transportation Trust.
What I'd like to do is set the town and the council straight on this. Anytime you pave curb to curb like you have on Fifth Avenue, you are responsible for fixing and repairing all sidewalks and curb cuts. If you pave down, let's say, I'll use my street for example, Adams Avenue, you have to replace those curbs. Same thing with the sidewalks that have to be replaced. You can't just say, oh, the job is over, and walk away. These are all under section 504. Read it.
I will have Tom Sala look into it.
He's been looking into this for over a year.
I'm going to remind him.
It took him 4 years to answer my attorney. 4 years.
I will definitely remind him. You have my word.
Thank you, Casey.
He told me he had contacted my attorney. I asked her if he had spoken to her, and she said, I haven't heard from him in 4 years. And he was trying to tell me it wasn't 4 years. I can't quote him the date, but I know it was back in 14 when the whole thing started with my attorney. We walked the town. Wrote down, I think it's 68 or 69 curb cuts, Alan?
I think we'll let,
Right.
Mike, I'll definitely
I'm
handle it.
sorry, we shouldn't be going back and forth.
right,
I'm sorry.
thank
No,
you.
it's okay.
Thank
It's
you.
okay, duly noted.
Thank you, Casey.
I'm not saying thank you to her. You did once, I'm saying to the mayor, council president.
Do we have any other comments from the public? Yes, please come forward and state your name and address. Yes, please.
Antoinette Koffler, 4210 River Edge. It's making me very uncomfortable to come here tonight because I went through the proper channels and I wrote to the mayor and council, I wrote to traffic and safety, I wrote to Chief Caridi and the code enforcer concerning issues that I have seen in town. Okay? I'm going to start with, as I'm walking down Kinderconnect Road on the south side of the street, there's property behind the new Dante's Deli. It's horrible. Not only is there, it looks like an abandoned trailer, but there's a house behind the new construction that looks like it's falling apart. It looks like a junkyard. And I have addressed this to the code enforcer, Mr. DeRosa. I've received letters that this is going to be done and this is going to be done, and nothing has been done. There's also a house on that property. It probably needs a new roof, paint. I mean, you're driving, walking north of Kinderconnect Road, and you're seeing this. I know when I stop at a light, my car, and I see it, I say, this is horrible. Why is this being allowed in this town? I've been in town for 41 years. I've seen a lot of changes, mostly good. Main Street is beautiful, really a beautiful job. There are issues that I'm very uncomfortable. There's a house on the corner. I have all the addresses. I made extra copies for all of you to look at. I'm not gonna go through everything, and the house needs siding for years. Why is this being allowed? It just pulls down our property value. If someone is driving up Tenney Avenue and they see this property, it should be done.
Do you have that list with you?
Yes, I do. I'll give you a copy of everything.
Property maintenance officer and code enforcer.
Now,
have
the,
those
Mr. DeRosa, I've spoken to him several times. I've gone through all the proper channels because it's on the corner of my block, and it looks horrible. It really does.
Well, if there are violations that are found, then proper notice will be given.
Construction, they are allowed to extend the permit. You don't know until you take the look at it.
So
But for years, I don't know what the statutes are as far as having a home with no siding on it.
A couple of years back during the recession, the Christie administration did away with the timetable for permits, and I don't know that they've ever been reinstated. I don't think they have.
I want you to know I brought it up too, because I live on Manning and the construction that never ends, and brought it up to the council, and Mr. Sarlo addressed it, and as of that time, because the Christie administration did away with timetables for permits, it's sadly, regrettably, heartbreaking.
So that means that they can have a home, their home,
If it's
without
in-
siding indefinitely.
I can't say that, but I agree with you. This is just unacceptable, and we're hoping that the
I will definitely look into this, though.
new administration.
I also have another issue with and Mr. DeRosa also knows this. I've been in contact with him. The townhouses behind me have landscaping, and it seems like the landscapers just mow and don't trim. So I have all their overgrown vegetation, and I can't even open up my back door. So he told me to contact Taylor Management. Contacted Taylor Management, and then the president of the townhouses came over, spoke to me, and assessed the situation, and she agreed with me. It was horrible. I even sent a letter to the attorney Sarlo. I think you got a copy. It's I'm only one person.
Well, please,
And
if you do have your list, please make sure that you bring that up to us, and we'll get it to the appropriate people to take a look at it.
And the last thing I'm going to say, why is Dante's not finished?
Well, I think that's the
That's-
explanation
Yeah.
that
Why
was
is
given.
Dante's not finished?
If
Why
they're
is,
in process, or they
Yeah.
have new permits, then they are allowed to continue to...
There's no time limit that we can enforce.
last but most importantly, is safety. I live on Tenney Avenue, and I believe there's only one 25-mile-per-hour sign. Only one. And they're speeders constantly. And I'm trying to tell them to slow down, and they don't slow down. I even addressed it to the police department, and they told me, oh, traffic and safety has to handle it. No, that's their job.
You're right out here, 42, or you're between?
Over here. I'm
Oh, you're going down.
yeah,
Okay.
going down. And they speed constantly.
Well, maybe traffic and safety at your next meeting, Councilman
I also
Bonboni.
wrote, I went through, ma'am, I went through all the proper channels.
Oh, the
Did you write
liaison
to
traffic
traffic
and
I
safety
did.
here.
I have
Okay.
copies of everything.
At the next meeting, I'll bring
leave-
it up. And I'll take
leave
a
you
look at
with
the
all-
speed sign.
I'll leave you with all the certified letters, I wrote to everybody, and I didn't get one response.
Well, bring them
Mrs.
forward. and
Koffler, we understand, we're looking into it, nothing.
We'll bring them forward if you have them, and
I
we'll make
will.
sure they get to the proper hands.
In the next traffic and safety meeting,
Or
I'll
actually,
bring
if
it
you
up.
could give them to the clerk,
Yeah, I
that
will.
would be great. Thank you.
Wait, there's one more thing, I almost forgot. I don't know what the ordinances are, but it makes me uncomfortable when I see a huge sushi sign.
Which one? Or you don't want to start?
Which
There's so many sushi places.
Well, there's
I
two.
know.
Are you talking about the sign other than something attached to a building?
Well, it's in place of, let's say, it's a sign covering a window, on the inside of the window.
We can,
Sushi, it says.
Well,
sushi.
if that's a code enforcement issue.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't
the
know,
code
I'm just
enforcer would
asking,
have to
but,
look at that.
you see,
yeah, it
when
is a
I-
code enforcement
when-
issue.
I'm just gonna say one thing, I travel,
You need to give us the address.
when I travel, I'm very aware how
I don't want
towns,
to assume anything.
Yeah.
I'm very aware how towns are designed and how they're maintained. And it makes me uncomfortable when I see things like that. Why isn't River Ridge like this? Why? Why are they being allowed to do big sushi signs?
Can you give us the address of the establishment in question, and
That's
then
a
the
good
code
idea.
enforcement
Yeah,
will look into
well, the
There's a-
one, I think it's Fuki Sushi, it's on the right-hand side.
Without
of-
names, is the one down there or down there?
Going north?
Well,
Yeah, how's that?
North or going south?
South.
it's going north on the right.
Okay,
Past,
we know.
River Ridge Road?
No, on Kinderkamak.
Yeah, but as you come up River Edge Road and get onto Kindergarten.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
All right.
You know, it's not my job.
Thank you for.
Thank you for bringing
Yeah,
it to our
bringing it.
attention, and please do give the
I
list to
will,
the clerk.
I will.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to be heard tonight? Please come forward.
Yeah, yeah, all right.
Unless,
Wait,
will
do
you look
you have a
for
question about this?
that?
Yes, I
Oh, okay.
All right,
then
we'll leave
we'll
it up for a
on.
sec.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Please just state your name and address for the record.
Henry Sendler, 435 Bogut Road. I'm looking at these plans, and I remember what was said in newspapers and everything over the years about buying the Legion building. What is stopping you from just knocking it down, putting a slab there, and building a two-story wooden building with a top floor that looks like this? Probably do it for $1 million. No problems with shade tree, no problems with beautification, no problems with anybody. Parking is already there. You might have to repave it. Why are you throwing so much money at architectural stuff like this? Already, you're in the hole when that could have been done so easily.
I mean, I can answer the question.
Please.
Okay. There's actually a lot of reasons. Just hypothetically, what kind of size building were you thinking with a second floor and wood construction?
What's the footprint of the Legion right now?
If I had to guess, maybe it's all the floors, maybe
Well, about
1,700, 1,800 square feet,
The footprint itself, what's it, 40 by 60 or something?
maybe.
Times 2,
Okay.
2 floors.
And I can answer that question for you. We've looked at sizes of buildings in that neighborhood. And again, when I was talking before about the size and the space that the SCORE has right now, would not accommodate a footprint that small. That one room right there is over 2,000 square feet. And beyond that, and as I've gone and talked with a lot of people, there's a need for the meeting space in town. People are always looking for meeting space. The Girl Scouts, the library has more, and I don't have the list in front of me, but more groups that ask for meeting space than I even knew about before I met with the Board of Trustees.
Oh, this is 1 floor.
And this is 1 floor, and there's actually
So you
logistical
could have
reasons
2
for that.
floors over the
But because
area.
once you start getting into 2 floors, you start getting into various ADA considerations, and then you need an elevator and things like that, and so you're adding additional costs with that second floor. If you have a second floor, you have to make it ADA compliant, and that means there's going to be an elevator and things like that.
I appreciate I appreciate that, but this is an opportunity for you to ask us your question and make a statement. We're not necessarily engaging in the
I
back
made a
and forth.
statement. Most of the town thought that's what was going over there. If the existing building wasn't good enough, knock it down, put one there. You know, this is $2.6 million now and still going probably. Oh, by the way, the 2.6, does that include the removal of the trees and stuff too?
Yeah, that's included in the site one.
Because that's going to be a big sum.
That's included in the site one, yeah.
Well, that's about it. That's my statement. What happened to the Legion building? And why can't this parking lot be put over it? Thank you.
Any, oh, state your name and address.
Michelle Caridi, 193 Wayne Avenue. I just would like to say one thing. I was at the library today with the DPW workers, Daniel and Thomas Decker. They were there all day cleaning, weeding, mulching. I just want to say what a treasure they are. As more and more people choose not to volunteer or choose not to have the time to volunteer, I can see that the DPW is going to become more and more important to little committees like beautification. The next, I have two things. Question, where is my, well, beautification shed going in this grand scheme of things?
I mean, we've talked before in the past.
Where are you going to put it?
I mean, we said we'd find a space for it. I don't know exactly where, but we've talked. I mean, I promise you there will be, your shed will be there. I can't tell you right this second, but I mean, I promised you before. We talked at the end of the meeting before. I told you, it'll be there.
And number two, I have sat in these meetings also, and I agree with this gentleman back here that I thought that was the American Legion. That was the plan with the American Legion. I thought we bought the property with the intention of making it a community center. You're going to have to cut down all these trees. This gentleman here is saying that there's a problem with his piece of property, where his home is. Why can't we put it where the American Legion is? That was the plan in the beginning.
That was a plan almost a decade ago, and the plan was altered. And I mean, I can tell you why. The thought was to have these two buildings here, and I've heard many times that the library is the center of the community. Darrow has told us that a million times when he's come. So what makes more sense? To attach the building to your center of your community. And there's an economy here as well. This building, there can be a doorway here. So you have these two bathrooms here as well, and which can supplement this also. And as you have people coming in and going to the library, it's just very convenient to also have it right here and have it attached as well. There's a meeting space here. And so it just kind of flowed together, and that was really the thought. Now, even if you had a building over here, if you have the same space and same footprint, because this is really what you need in terms of size. We looked at a 5,000 square foot building, and it didn't meet the needs. And if you're going to have a building this size, you still come back to the fact that you need the same amount of parking spaces. And that's something that we can't get past. We need the same amount of parking spaces, so you have to put those in.
Right, I'm going to have to ask that we not have this extension, but I appreciate your
yeah, I'm just trying to answer
but I think that we are moving forward with having a public discussion at a later date where we can have these conversations. So,
just one last thing. While I was at the library today, and the children were getting out at 12:45, the incredible traffic because of Riverdale coming down from Roosevelt getting out, the traffic on Elm Avenue was incredible. When you're going to have the in and the out coming out, the exit and the entrance on Elm Avenue, why don't we put it on the busier side of the more busy street? Wouldn't that make more sense? Is it twice as wide also? And this poor gentleman here with his property.
Cool.
Just
It's something we and as I said, the thought was not to have kids crossing Continental mid-block, and that was the thought process with this. Now, I mean, we could certainly look at putting it back on Continental and eliminating the issue that, respectfully, it exists already. I mean, there is a driveway at that location now, but we can look to see if we can eliminate that. Right now, if you ask me, do I feel comfortable putting it back? And opening up that, trying not to solve that problem of people crossing Memorial into the parking lot. I don't feel comfortable with that right now, but that's something as a council we can explore, and other council members may have a differing opinion.
One last thing I'm gonna throw at you.
Yeah.
I was also told that you can only get so close to that creek behind the library. That's what I was told.
Well, we've looked at it, so.
Okay. Because it's a water.
There's people who have gone to school and are engineers and architects who have looked at that, and I'll just have to take the expert's word on that one.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for your comments on the DPW. I'm sure the liaison will pass that on. Do you have any other comments from the public? If not, I'll motion to close to the public, please.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any council comments? We'll start with Councilman Keenan.
Before we go to comments, I think Mr. Costa has one more report on the process.
Can we do that in public then? We don't have to go back into work session?
And we should go back into work.
Yeah, we have to go back.
Okay. So do we want to hold council comments to work session and we'll just go right back in?
Yeah.
Okay, a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to reopen the special work session of the mayor and council Monday, June 25th.
Can we just take a 1 minute break?
Yeah, we're going to take a
'Cause
1
if I get
minute.
up, we don't have.
Yeah, we're going to take a 1 minute break and come back into work session.